So this is something that I discussed last Thursday, right? And then this is my explanation about the routing table, right? So this, okay, so I want you to watch this video tutorial, right? At least maybe 2 or 3 times, right? I know that if you have some basic background, maybe watching this video tutorial like 1 or 2 times, that will be enough, but some people that's not the case. So good thing about having this video lecture is that you can watch, you can pause, right? And then think about it, then you can replay, right? So that's something you can do, right? So I want you to watch this video tutorial a few more times, right? And then this is the this is a routing table of this routing this router, this R1. Okay, so I'm gonna use the purple. So this is a router R1, right? This is router R1. In the router R1, right? When you type show IP route, then you'll see this routing table. And if you look at this routing table, there's our this route entries, as you can see, right? So for example, in this lab, right? In this lab, when I click R1, right? And when I type, so like when you type, so in the privileged exe mode, right? I mean, this is the example. And by the way, I did not really, configure any of these routers. So at this point, when I type show IP route, it only shows this information, right? This network 209.160, because I have not really configured anything on R1. But for example, let's just assume that, okay? Let's assume that you completely finished configuring the router R1 and R2 and pretty much like every device in this network. Okay, that's the assumption. Okay, let's you have you have completed configuring all the devices in this network, right? And by the way, basically I use this this is, by the way, the chapter 6 lecture slide. And of course there's I assume that you already read chapter 6, right? Because the description in the chapter 6 is has much more details, right? But anyway, so let's say you configure every device in this topology. And in R1, right, when you type show IP route, you will see this the routing table as a result, right? And let's take a look at this routing table, right? I already explained about this last week, but briefly, okay, I'm gonna go over this briefly one more time. But this is gonna be really brief, because I don't want to repeat the same thing over and over. Okay, so if you look at this, right, this routing table, you know that if you look at the first line is called parent entry. I mean, the precise name for the first entry is level 1 parent entry, but you don't have to really know the specific name. It's just you can think it's basically the parent entry, right? Parent IP route. So for example, 10.0.0.0/8 is variably subnetted, and it has 2 subnets, right? So that's important, 2 subnets and then 2 masks. And since you have a parent, right, then you must have a child, right? In this case, there are 2 children, right? Which is the D, right? So D and then D. D means like dynamic routing protocol. And basically this R1 learns through the dynamic routing protocol. It learns that if the destination is 10.1.1.0/24. So by the way, this is what? This is the first child, right? This is a parent, 10.00, right? And then /4 is a subnet mask. And then this is like first child, and this is like a second child, right? And they run this route from the dynamic routing protocol. And at this point, it really does not matter which dynamic routing protocol is, whether it's a EIGRP or OSFF. At this point, we don't care, right? We don't have, this is like a 275, so we don't care, right? So basically, through some kind of routing protocol, right? This router R1 learns that to get to this destination network, another one is 10.1.2.0 basically, /224. And the /24, if you think about it, we learned that this is a network portion, right? Because of the /24. And because of /24, we know that this is a network portions, right? Okay. So we have a two different network, right? So basically, if he wants to get into 10.1.1 network, right? Which is from R1, right? From R1, if he wants to, you know what? I'm gonna use a red. If there's a red, okay, so there's a red. Good. Okay, so I'm gonna use the red because 10.1.1 is a red, right? So this is a red, right? So instead of using the green, I'm gonna use the red. I'm sorry. So this red network, 10.1.1.1, right? So that's a destination IP address, destination network. So basically, from R1, if you want to get into this red network, which is 10.1.1.0, right? What it says is it has to go through, right? The first one is it has to go through 209.165.200.226, which is the IP address. By the way, this has been already explained in the previous lecture. Basically, you have to go through this, you have to go through this interface. And think about it. In R1's perspective, right, to get to this red network, you have to go through this 226, right? The 226 address, like 209.165.200.226, right? You have to go through this interface to reach the final destination network. And to get into this green one, right? Which is 10.1.2.0 network, right? To get into this network, so basically that's a green network, right? And then you have to go through what? You have to go through same thing, 226. Okay, so the IP address .226, IP address .226, right? By the way, if you look at this D, right, there are some square bracket, right, and there's some number, right? Don't worry, just completely ignore this. Okay, it's not really, at this point it really does not matter. By the way, this is like the matrix, but at this time, don't worry about it. And then the things that you have to worry about is, next one is a serial 000, the same thing, right? And then in the middle there's something called a 000005. So don't worry. So anything that is not IP address at this point, don't worry about it. Okay? So when you read routing table, don't worry. Just you have to worry about the IP address and then maybe the interface. Okay, that's something that you have to focus. Okay, now, so that's a DD, right? So basically it says that if you look at the R1, right, to reach this red network and to this green network, you have to go through this 226 interface. And you know what? This is a serial, what? This is serial 000. Okay? So you have to go through this serial line. And then this is a next hop IP address. Then your next hop is 226. By the way, the IP address for this is 225. But this is 226, right? So you have this because this R1 basically says to get to this red network, you have to go through this next hop IP address and through this serial port, right? So any questions up to this point? Okay, so that's what really this D means. The router R1 learns, right? Learns that to get to this red network, to get to this green network, you have to go through this next hop IP address and through this serial interface, which makes sense, right? Okay. And then the next one is what? We have another parent. We have another parent information, like but actually this is not really route, but this is like a parent route entry. So another one is 192.168.10.0/24, right? And they said it's variably subnetted. And how many subnet? There are 2 subnets. And then 2 what? And then it said 3 mask, right? And so since it's a parents, right? So you have to pay attention to that. You have 2 subnets, right? So that means we're gonna have 2 children. So the first children is C, right? The C stands for directly connected network. And then when you look at this network, right? When you look at this R1, there are 2 directly connected network, right? One is what? Blue one. The blue one is directly connected network. And then you have what? Another directly connected network to R1, right? Which is what? Green one, right? So when you take a look at this, by the way, everything has already been explained in the previous lecture, but I'm just reviewing. And so since you have a parents, you have direct, basically what? Okay, so so your parents is 92. Okay, hold on. So basically, you have a 2 directly connected network. So basically, you have, by the way, this one is basically it stands for the green one. Okay, so which is what? Stands for the green. This guy, right? So basically, we need to have a 3 parents route entry. One for the green, and another for, one for the sky blue, and another for the green, and another for this serial link, this orange, right? So we have a 3 parent address. So one for the sky blue, right? And then we have another parent route entry, right, which is green, right? And then the last one is orange, right? The orange is that interface. This interface, this orange interface, right? This guy. So we have a 3 entry information, right? So we have a parent and another parent, and this time the green, right? So first, take a look at the blue one. Blue one is 192.160.10.0, right? Okay, so The first one is 10.0, and then you have two children for this green one. I mean the sky blue, right? For the sky blue, you have two. This is like parents, right? And then you have two what? You have two children. The first one is a C, means directly connected, and L means interface name. So you have C and L, right? And then for the parents, then you have like 192.168.11.0, which is green network, right? And then you have two children's, just like C means directly connected network, L means directly connected interface. Okay? And then the orange one is the orange is what? 209, this one, right? 209, 165, 200, 224. And /24. So 222, oops, the orange is 229.165.200, right? 165.200 /24, right? And then just like you have a parent, so you have a directly connected network, and then you have what? Directly connected interface. Okay? And for the directly connected C, right? Directly connected network, basically you have /24. Okay? For the directly connected network, you have 192.168.10./24. This is network, right? And for directly connected network, so for example, when you look at the router, this is green one, right? The sky blue, so you have a sky blue, right? And then this is an interface, directly connected interface. And this interface is the IP address. L means 192.168.10.1, right? So 192.168.10.1, right? Which is the IP address of this gateway, this interface. And that is /32. So at this point, don't worry too much about 24 and 32. This is like about subnetting, okay? But you always have when you have one local area network to attach to this interface, this gigabyte interface, you always have a two subnet, and this is /24. At this time, don't worry too much about this number. But one thing that you have to notice is this is like directly connected interface, which is whose IP address is 192.168.1.0. Okay, and then the three subnet masks. Don't worry about this too much at this point. Just worry about these two subnets. Okay, and the same thing for the C and L. This time it's green network, right? So that means here's the green network, right? And then what? Finally we have orange network, right? In here we have, of course there's another router here. But now we are talking about this orange network, right? And the orange network, of course, there's interface, right? So you have IP address, the network address, which is this, and the IP address of this interface is L, right? And so we have two children, right? So basically that's for the R1, right? R1. Okay. So any question up to this point? Okay. Now, just tell you the homework assignment that you should do. Having said that, this is very simple. Where's my Word file? Okay. So in the weekly task, I'm gonna make some changes. Instead of, I'm still gonna call it as a chapter 6 quiz, part 2, right? But this time, you have to, it's not gonna be multiple choice questions. Basically, you have to submit Okay, so there's a submit instruction is create a routing table on R2. Okay, so I mean, this is very simple. So you know that this routing table is for the R1, right? So this routing table is for the R1. I want you to create the same routing table for R2. Okay, it's very likely that it's going to be. I think it should be called a dual. Okay, and then this is going to be your hint, and this is for the R1, right? And assuming that R2, right, and R1 and R2, they are running some kind of a dynamic routing protocol called ERGRP, but at this time, it does not really matter which dynamic routing protocol is running, okay? And so basically, using the Microsoft Word, right? Using the Microsoft Word, what is the routing table, should look like? When you type, for example, right, on R2, when you type show IP route, right, then it'll show some kind of a routing table, right? So it's very likely that it's going to be very similar, right? DDCL, CL, CL. So you will see DD, CL, CL, and CL, right? Which is going to be pretty much a dual. Okay, so work on this, make this table using a Microsoft Word. Okay, and by the way, just like I said, don't worry too much about first of all, don't worry when you're drawing this routing table. I said, don't worry about this matrix, this value. Don't worry, and don't worry about that the 00005 colon, right? For example, like don't worry about 000. Don't worry, okay? I don't care. And then for the CL, for the parent, right? Just this is important, but don't worry about the number of masks. Okay, don't worry about the 3 masks or 5 masks. Don't worry, but this information is important, and along with the IP address. Okay. So any question? Any? Okay, then I'd like to, I'm going to start recording my lecture.